Now, you have released a report today about cost of living. This is what you've been working on for some time. It's not final report, it's interim. Read it today. Fascinating case studies, all of this about the reality of the pressures people are under. Now, can we bring the image up about what the promise was tweeted on the 17th of May last year from the Prime Minister's Twitter account, right? So, look, the poodle might have done it. Somebody else might have done it. But remember what the promise was? Cost of living will go down under a Labor government. You've gone all over the country, Senator. What are some of the examples of that promise in flames?
Yeah, this report is an interim report, you're right. The final report's going to come out in November and it will have a series of recommendations. But what the report does is have a number of findings, about 11 findings actually. And while some of them won't necessarily come as a surprise, they certainly should be something that the government can take heed of when they're preparing the budget next week. Things like energy prices are going through the roof. Wages are not keeping up with inflation, so real wages are actually going backwards. Food and grocery prices in particular, there's lots of pressure on those, and that's feeding into how charities who are trying to pick up the slack around the country for people that are suffering from cost of living, often for the first time, they're suffering themselves. They can't keep up with the rent, they can't keep up with the energy bills, and they're struggling to even find volunteers now to work in the charities because they're going back out to work to fix their own cost of living crisis.
Correct.
There was an awful lot of evidence that came out from, doesn't matter, right around the country, but there's some common themes. Now, there's more that we want to get into. We want to get into the rising cost of insurances. We want to get into how difficult it is now to switch between bank loans, even if you want to look for the best rate, because that buffer component has increased. You know, the RBA, the APRA is requiring a larger equity buffer in your home loans. There's lots more that we can uncover here. But the big finding, of course, is that this isn't caused by Vladimir Putin in Russia. It's not caused by external factors. That inflation is coming from Parliament. It's coming from Canberra. It's not coming from Martin Place. This is not the RBA's fault. The RBA is forced to do all the heavy lifting if the government isn't doing its bit. You've got to have both feet on the brake and the pedal at the same time, rather than one on the brake and one on the pedal. At the moment, the RBA is forced to keep ratcheting up interest rates because it's not hearing the right messages from government about what it's doing to lower inflation. It must restrain spending. This is the only way that you can sustainably control inflation with fiscal policy rather than just relying on monetary policy.